Hi, I'm John Groders. Welcome to the No Shame Podcast. Okay, you're a Christian, and you know the Bible talks a lot about love. Have love for one another. Love covers a multitude of sins. It's cool, right? And you believe that, but still, people can drive you crazy. So, what gives? Well, stick around and meet Linda Goldfarb, an expert in personality. Maybe she can help.
Have no shame. No, we are not afraid. No shame. Of the gospel of his name. It's the power of God by which we all are saved. We need not be afraid. No shame.
Well, we're here at the International Christian Visual Media Conference, ICVM, where we meet the most interesting people, and this is our first guest of the week, and I have so much to learn from this interesting person. Welcome, Linda Goldfarb, to ICVM and to the No Shame Podcast.
Thank you so much, John. It is an absolute pleasure to be here with you, and this is going to prove to be a very exciting week because I'm all about personalities, and I see them everywhere. And so I get really pumped up by it, and with some I'm like, oh, we need to sit and talk for a little while. So this is going to be great.
What's a personality?
You know what? That is a great question. The way that God designed us, if I can go there for a moment, you know that we have 4 different blood types, and a lot of people wonder why. Why do we have 4 different blood types? Why don't we have one? Because by God's design, He placed us in a specific place for a specific reason, and the way that the world is created, the way that the sun is closer in one area than another, then it's the same with skin color and stuff like that. By design, He placed us exactly where we needed to be. And by design, He created our brain to work exactly the way He wants it to for the opportunities He's putting in front of us. So our personality is how we respond in relationship to other people, because everything is relationship. I have a job, but I have a relationship with that job. I have children, I have a relationship with that child. I'm married, I have a relationship with that person. Relationship and friendship. Our relationship with God is a divine relationship. It is the best relationship. And God has designed each of us, John, He designed you specifically to be behind the microphone, to do what you do. And with the personality that you have, you lean into people, you listen to people, you're curious about people, and you want the world to know something that's going to help them better. There's other people, they will not get in front of a microphone. It petrifies them, but they're very good at what they do behind the scenes. They're very good because that's how God designed them. And what we have found today, why are we writing the books that we have? There's a lot of different books. There's a lot of different personality descriptors out there. We use mobilizer, socializer, organizer, and stabilizer. The reason we use that is because it's real easy for people to understand.
Well, now let me get some context to
Sure.
her as listeners. So we're talking with Linda Goldfarb. She's got a series of books called Linked, and
They're
we're gonna
quick guides to personality.
Quick guides to personality. We're all going to learn about this together, but we know in the last 20 years there's been sort of an explosion of different assessments, self-assessment tools, right?
Absolutely.
To help us sort of understand why we work a certain way, or why we get along with a certain kind of person,
Absolutely.
or how some relationships are hard and some relationships are easy. So you're coming, if I understand this correctly, please correct me, but you're coming into this stream of saying there's value in self-assessment tools. There's godly portion to this, which is not only how tall we are and how wide we are and what color our eyes are, but that our personality is a distinct thing. And in that stream, you've got. So tell me that you're going with four kind of blood types of personality, I guess.
Okay. No matter what personality assessment,
Right.
there is a core, we believe, my co-author and I, and everything that we have studied with the personalities, her name is Linda as well, so we're the 2 Lindas of personality. We believe there are 4 core personalities. There is a powerful personality, which we call the mobilizer, the get-her-done person. And you'll find that different in, like DISC is going to be the D, is going to be the dominant. We have the socializer personality. This is the playful personality, the popular personality. And then we have the peaceful personality, the one who just wants peace at all cost. And we call that the stabilizer because they're the rudder in everything. If you have a business, you have someone who's the rudder, the one who doesn't panic, the one who is calm. And then we also have the organizer, which is also called the perfect or the purposeful. And this personality wants order. They're more task-oriented, less people-oriented. They strive for perfection. They strive for everything to be exactly right. This is the person, no matter if they're a child, and the child comes in and their brother came and moved their stuff or took something, and they walk in and they put their hands on their hip and they go, "That's not right. That's not right. What he did was wrong." Odds are that child is going to be the one who wants everything perfect, who needs the order, who needs to have that line of, we do this, we do A, B, C, D. That's also the child, and we can grow this up, John. If it's a child, what you are as a child, you are as an adult. What you have learned.
You don't mature out of your personality?
You mature into it, John.
You mature into your personality.
Oh, it's
Interesting.
amazing.
Yeah.
Now, what can happen, though, because the world is bombarding us with stuff, right? And let me stay, if I can, with that child.
Yep.
And the child who is the perfectionist, the one who says, "This is my stuff. I don't want anyone to touch my stuff because it's mine, and it needs to stay nice and clean, and it needs to have this." And so they have a brother or sister, "Oh no, we're roomed together." The parents go, "I can't, we only have room for both of them." What I've told parents is, okay, take some wonderful duct tape, put it down the middle of the room, and let your child know, your organizer, perfectionist, know, this is your side, and Susie or Bobby, this is your side. You can't cross over the line, So you give them a little bit of space that's there. But as they grow, what can happen, and I'll say it this way, unattended, personalities unattended by parents, by friends, by loved ones who don't recognize that element that God has placed in that precious person. Unattended, the perfectionist will be told, what you're doing is wrong. You have to let people break the rules because that's just how they are. Oh, you're taking things too personal. You're taking things the wrong way. And so
because those people can be irritating, right? I mean, let's be honest. They're irritating people.
Absolutely. So, I'm like the socializer mobilizer. So I'm like going, well, let's just get it done. It's okay. We don't have to sit here for 2 hours. But what happens to that person as they grow, they go, okay, then I'm bad.
Right.
The way I am, the way I think is wrong because everyone's told me I'm wrong. And so what they do then is they start becoming what other people tell them you must be.
Or if they live in a whole house full of organizers, then maybe it's the socializer that's told that he or she's wrong.
And I have had that. I have had parents. I work with families.
Right.
And 4 of them, same blend.
Right.
And then they have the one who's a socializer mobilizer.
That's the black sheep.
Total opposite. And they go, what's wrong with this person? And I go through and they realize nothing. Oh, my word. What we've done is we've impressed what works for us and set that standard. And the dynamics in the family totally change because I go, God didn't design her that way. He designed her for this. And she's sitting there going, the child is going, you see me.
Right. So this is so we had the Myers-Briggs back in the 80s and 90s.
Mm-hmm. And it's still growing strong. I mean, people are still
doing ICVM, EFJ, whatever, 4 on each side. We had, in the work environment, I remember something called the Colby Test. Have you studied the Colby Test?
I haven't done a lot with the Colby Test,
Well,
no.
That's more on your work style and your work ability and how you get along. Lately, the Enneagrams are all the rage,
Enneagrams are everywhere, yes.
And great tools for writers, I must say. I love studying the Enneagram of fictional characters if I'm writing. It's
absolutely.
Great. So these 3 things have sort of entered our social awareness. We do a lot of work with the 5 love languages, which is another blend of how do I understand the other person's personality type and meet them where they're at instead of just expressing my personality type and then missing in the context of relationships.
Absolutely.
Your system is called Linked, and I see in this, there's a self-assessment tool here, they ask you all these questions that are very difficult to answer for me. almost always want to answer all of them. But if I were to take the linked personality assessment and we had a chance to break down kind of where you saw me, or any of you who are listening, if Linda could assess your personality and kind of put a pin, okay, here's where you stay, how can that help me be a better person?
Oh, what a great question. Great question. Because what we are looking at, right, as Christ followers, as individuals out there in the world, it's not more about I wish other people would change, which
Right.
many people have that concept.
Absolutely.
It really is, God says, right, look in your own eye, pull that log out, look at yourself. I've designed you a certain way. So when someone, and this is not a box. My husband, when I first started studying the personalities, he goes, I don't need anyone to label me. And I was kind of that way too. You don't know me, you can't label me, but the more I started discovering the relational benefits of this, the more I started seeing my children. So I'll give you my benefit. I started recognizing with my husband that I was treating my husband the way that I expected him to be. And I'm a powerful person. And I find this, John, I work with parents, I work with couples, and there's a lot of strong women today who are moving into a position that I don't believe is the order of covering according to the Word. And so since I'm a strong woman, God has shown me you need to take a look at yourself and you need to kind of redirect. And so utilizing the personalities, I sit in a classroom and I teach every week working with parents, and I go, and I've got the husband and the wife, and I can see the posture of the couple before I've even heard their name, and I can tell you pretty much what their personalities are. But when I start telling the wife, if you're in a position of, because you're powerful, you speak your mind, you're this, you want to get things done, and they're pumped up and they're going, yeah. I said, and then you have a husband who wants to love you and who wants to be compliant, but he also wants to be compliant to God, but because you've kind of moved into that place, he has no place to go. So you need to back out. And John, the reason that's important is because that was my life. I say that transparency transforms. And when God opened my life so that I'm unafraid to tell people this is what happened with me, there was a moment when I was in my quiet time. Those of you that are listening, I was studying the Word. So I'm, reading the Bible. I'm looking at it. I'm asking the Lord, what do you want to do with my life? And in that moment, I said, God, you've got me on a path. You've got me on this amazing path. I'm speaking. I've got a radio show. I'm doing all of this. Can you please make my husband as spiritual as me? Because if you do that, then we'd really be able to accomplish things.
I know.
And in that moment, John, the conviction in my spirit, because I said that, and it was like the Lord was like, and you are who? Have you read the order of covering in my Word? Have you read how I've designed you to be? Do you believe that I chose your husband for you for my reason, not for your reason? And I kind of got to the end of myself. The Lord allowed me to get to the end of myself, where my agenda was no longer what I was focused on. I said, Lord, do with me what you will. Be with me to come alongside my husband to help him. And from that moment, it changed our relationship. It changed my relationship with my kids. It was amazing.
I happened this morning to be reading 1 Peter 3, just in my devotions, and it's interesting that you're talking about the order of covering. It's not for me to teach on today, but it's worthy of reading and talking about what you're talking about. And you also referenced, how good we are at seeing the speck in the brother's eye. And the Bible says, all right, so you can see a speck in your brother's eye. It's probably irritating your brother or your sister. Like a speck in your eye is a terrible thing, right?
Absolutely.
If you had a speck in your eye,
Sure.
your eyes are watering and you can't see where you're going, it's not like that's not important. And tell me the rest of the story. But the Bible says, no, pay attention to the log that's in yours. You have got a log in yours, and you're not even paying attention to that. You're so much into someone else's business. there you go.
And that's where the area of shame comes into, John, because we can shame others into fitting into our space. into fitting into our agenda, into fitting into who we believe they should be. How many parents will say, oh, Johnny's got my nose, he has my eyes. One of the things I tell parents, I go, understand, he may have a nose that looks like yours and eyes that looks like yours, but just like you and me, he was created in God's image, not yours. He is not designed for you to use. He is still designed for God's use. So parents, raise up a child in how they should be. And that means understand their personality, understand their love language, understand their spiritual gifting. I've been doing the teaching on really coming up alongside your child to get them to understand that God can gift them as he gifts us. When they're a believer in Jesus Christ, they have a spiritual gift. So folks, are you looking at your child and saying, what is that spiritual gift? I just want Johnny to be a good football player.
Right, of course.
Okay, but what if Johnny has the gift of giving, or Johnny has the gift of, hospitality or speaking, or, there's so many things, of teaching. There's so many things when we discover the personalities, then it's not a label, it's an understanding. And that understanding impacts every aspect of our life. John, it impacts our job. It impacts how we treat people when we're out in the world. We're here at a conference. There'll be a lot of people that are so stuck in their own agenda, they do not see anyone else walking around them. And it's like they're in a big, huge place, isolated. And what I love is when I can see someone, and sometimes it's how they're dressed, sometimes it's their posture, if you're familiar with the personalities. And so if I go up and I just look at someone, I'm led, and I'll go, you look exceptionally wonderful today. That color is really good. I don't say that to everybody, but if I'm led and that person looks at me and what I see in their eyes, you see me. How did you see me? I'm standing against a wall. I'm here. Now, I don't invade their space. I won't continue to talk. It's the same as on airplanes. I'll sit down and there's someone that's there, and pretty much I can kind of go, okay, this will be a helpful person, but they're going to have their own thing that they want to do. And so I'm talking, now the stewardess, and this happened to me. The stewardess comes up, well, the stewardess is a socializer. Oh, da-da-da-da-da-da. And I know this man who's up against the window is like going, oh my word, they're never going to be quiet. And so I'm talking to her, we're bantering back and forth, and that's lovely. And as I go to sit down, I had a cup of coffee, and I said, I'm sorry, excuse me, would you mind? And he goes, oh, no, that's fine. And then I sat down, I settled in my seat, and I took the cup back, and I said, thank you. And I said, and don't worry, I will not invade your space. And he turned and he looked at me, and he went, And I didn't talk to him the entire time, but every word that he shared with me was so polite and so kind and so caring. And I was like, this is what it's about. Am I leaving me behind, kind of like what John says? It's less and less of me and more of Christ. Do I walk that? How can I walk that? When we get an idea, and it doesn't mean you have to have a dissertation, doesn't mean that you have to have a doctorate. That's why we created the quick guides, right? Because we're busy.
There's so many things here, and you talked about labels, right? And no one likes to be labeled. Label's a dirty word today. You're labeled. I want to flip that around a little bit. If you want to know something about a full book or a can of soup, or a label can actually be helpful, can it? Do we have to sort of connotate labeling as a completely negative thing?
Ooh, I like that. No, you're absolutely correct. For information-wise, absolutely correct. But if I am impressing a label on someone that someone has not received, a book cover, someone decided this is the best book cover. This is what I want you to know about the book. This is on the back. This is what I want you to know about the content.
It's not everything about the book. It's not the entire contents of the book. It's a hint that gives you is this a mystery? Is this a comedy? Is this a biography? So these personality labels, they're hints at people, right? They're not meant to be the entire person.
No, and they're a means of understanding someone a little more. And they're a means to, what's the best way to start a conversation with someone who's more of an introvert, who's someone who's more task-oriented and not people-oriented? You have a stabilizer who is an introvert, but they're people-oriented. They love people, just not a crowd. They'll be around 2 or 3 of their best friends. The socializer is a people person, but the socializer loves everybody. Give them a microphone and you've made their day. The mobilizer is a task person. The mobilizer wants to get everything done. But the mobilizer is not that much into people. It's, come on, people, just get it done. Come on, let's do it like this. Let's do it my way or the highway type of thing. They can be wonderful people, but they're not sensitive. That's not their natural bent. But they can be if they have a stabilizer that's on set with them, say with a movie, and the stabilizer is there. The stabilizer has learned their lines. They've done everything they're supposed to do. But then you have a mobilizer who's a director, and they come out and they go, all right, let's go, people. Come on. John, I told you that. And wow, you can see the countenance of that individual kind of shrink back a little bit.
Right.
Instead of that saying, John, I know I can trust you to have your stuff done. Excellent. Let's get on the set. Now you've puffed up that person and they're ready to go. And then you have the organizer who is task-oriented and an introvert. And this is the one who is a discerner of information. They love order. They want it to be the way it's supposed to be. And they need more time to make change. They don't like change. And they are the ones who will say, don't label me. You don't know me. Especially if you haven't spent time with them. Because they're like, how can you know something? I have to know something when I spend a lot of time with it. So when you understand that, then you can stair step into that relationship.
You know, again, this kind of insight is important and can be helpful in all different relationship circles in our lives. You've got a book here that's specifically designed and for the educational world. You've got one that's specifically designed for parents. You've got one, I think, that's for
general audience.
And so I think about the work world. I learned, again, through taking the Colby Test in the early 2000s, how to set up my company that I don't need everybody like me. I'm a quick start, but I'm maybe not so high on research or whatever.
Perfect.
And so I will naturally hire a bunch of people that I kind of connect with, and I'll make a very shallow company. So in the working world, you've got to have follow-through people, research people, quick start people that can do ideas. Okay, that makes sense to me from a cognitive working class. In family, you know, if you're married to another person, chances are you probably didn't marry your mirror personality type. Is that true? Is that fair? Opposites attract? I mean, what do you think?
That's a good. Well, we do say that opposites attract. Some people will say, well, they complete you.
Yeah.
And I really want to challenge people in that because, and not sound Christianese, but I know if the one who completes me is my Savior, then what I bring to the table is fullness. I bring a completeness that becomes a new completeness. And if I go into a relationship for someone else to complete me, that person will fail me. I will fail that person. And then I have expectations they can never achieve. And so, but okay, let's go to real world, right? So we marry because someone that we know, they made us laugh, and I don't laugh all the time. This person made us laugh, and then we're into the marriage for 6 months, and all that person does is make me laugh, and they're driving me insane. They really need to get to the real world. They need to start working. They need to this. Well, if I understand their personality from the get-go, no matter who they are, they're always going to be the one that has fun. They're always going to be the one who's going to have fun with my kids. And if I know that, then I work with that. I don't have that show up as a, oh my gosh, what did I do type of thing.
Right.
So opposites do attract, but not everyone is opposites. They can have a portion. And again, I'm just covering the 4 dominant here, but we look at the dominant as the bottom of the smile. So the smile, that little curve at the bottom is your dominant. And if you are a mobilizer like myself, I can have socializer tendencies. I also have organizer tendencies. And depending on where I'm walking, you know, what aspect? Am I purely business right now? Am I in a social area right now? Am I consoling a child right now? Am I coaching right now? I have to go into that little swing set of that curve. But my dominant will always be the mobilizer. So the mobilizer, when my husband, who's a stabilizer, says, you need to go rest. Okay, emotional for me, don't make me rest. That's not what I do. What I do is what? I go exercise or I do more work. That gives me freedom. So when he understands that, He doesn't try
Sure.
to make me go into a room and
I
rest.
hope that we've made some progress in this area. I mean, maybe it's as we get older, but I mean, going back to Myers-Briggs, the very
Yes.
first one, you mentioned extrovert, introvert. So even not being aware of those personality distinctions, I'm an extrovert. I get energized by people. I like to hang out with people. If my house is full of people, I'm happy. I didn't understand when I married Judy that she was an introvert. Neither of us understood these words. We were just people that, kind of were attracted to each other. So it was an odd, first 10 years, I guess,
Yes.
before we actually understood what actually gives her energy is a quiet house and a silent space. And she'd rather live out in the woods where no one can find the house, and I'd rather live, in the middle of town with the door open. All right, we had to, and we'll have to kind of learn, but once we learn, look, that's the way she was made, this is the way I was made. This isn't an inherent conflict.
No.
We have to, that's the simplest one that I'm sort of slowly going, okay, I can respect that in her.
Yes, and that's the sweet spot, John. When I realized when my husband married, when my husband Sam and I married, and we had a birthday party for him, and his house was full of people, and at 9:00, he disappeared, and I'm asking his friends, I'm like, where did he go? And they all said, oh, he went to bed. And I said, what do you mean he went to bed? We have all of you
This is
here.
a party.
Yes, and they go, oh no, he always goes to bed at 9:00. And I'm like going, what's wrong with this person?
That's hilarious.
But see, that's the thing is like, oh, he needs to pull back. He needs that. So now what I do is I gift him with that. Whatever we're doing.
I'm having your birthday party, Sam, and you know what? You're not even invited this year. It's going to be
Oh,
perfect.
because
You're
yeah,
gonna love
you don't give him a surprise party. You don't do that. But it's what you said, John. When a couple comes to a place where they say, Father, I want to be about my bride. I want to be about my husband. Can you help me in that? When we realize that he actually designed our brains for a purpose, he designed them to function at different levels, under stress, for enjoyment, for all of these, we're all different. And so if I can say, oh, this is going to make my husband smile, what I do now, I will sit with him during a football game where he is adamant about who he wants to win, and he has all of this, and I'm here going, there are so many other things I could be doing right now. I could be doing writing, but I'm choosing to be with him. And if he gets upset at somebody, I go, right? That was ridiculous.
I know, I
don't
saw
have
that game.
I know. And so, but then he looks at me and he says, he puts his hand over on my knee and he says, thank you just for being with me.
Right.
Because mobilizers, we don't just be.
Right.
We're doers.
Right.
But in that, what I've said to him is, you're more important to me.
Yeah.
And when he does things for me that's out of his wheelhouse, I go, oh, you thought of me. That's so precious. And that's really what God is. God says, I know your best. I know what will click with you, and I have it. And what we do is we go, well, I'll look at your best once I get finished with my agenda. But if I go, wait, he designed me? Why don't I go with him first? And that's the concept that we utilize throughout these books as well. And I use them in the marketplace. So I'm in public schools. I use them all over, and everyone resonates with them because everyone is about relationship. No matter what you do, the parents want their home to run smoother. Why is it not? Why doesn't Mary do her homework? And when we turn on, and they go, oh, that makes so much sense. And the teachers are the same, and the general public is the same. We want people to get us, but a lot of us are so beat down, we're not going to utilize the energy to make people get us. So
I'm speaking with Linda Goldfarb, and we are on the floor at ICVM, and Linda has a series of books that she's written with another Linda G, very confusing, but Linda Gilden and Linda Goldfarb, so it sort of sounds like the same person. But the series of books that we're looking at is called Linked, and Maximizing Life Connections, one link at a time. And this concept that there might be something helpful for me. Sometimes I'll say this, it sounds very harsh, but sometimes I can say this sounds like a bunch of psychobabble. and it's a subject to be studied in school and be tested on, and then I got to go to work, and I got to drive my truck, or I got to build my house, or I got to teach my class. I mean, blah, 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 blah. So can you just, if someone is skeptical that this is just psychobabble, and this is a class I should have taken in the 10th grade, how do you reach through that and say, I really would love to not make this just psychobabble, but help you?
Yeah. I like that. My husband was a psychobabble guy, and he goes, yeah, I don't need that. Let me tell you what he is telling people now.
Yeah.
He said, there's a lot of things with my mind that I will deny because it doesn't fit in my understanding. But when he started seeing people's lives changed, like we work with parents, when parents in the class started going home and applying what they learned, and it wasn't Sam, he was just observing, because that's what he's like, let me see it work. And they came back and they said, everyone, we just need to tell you, this is our child, this is what our child has been doing. We started applying what we have learned from this. Guess what happened this week? So then he sat up and he was like, okay, let me take a look at that. And so what I suggest to those that are like, this is psychobabble, and I go, it certainly can be, because there's so many people with an agenda. What I would suggest is give it a shot. If God wants you to embrace it, you're going to, because now is the time, right? It's like when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And it's with all of this. What I'm doing is not telling anyone you need to change, because I don't want people to change. I want them to see how God made them, right? And I'm like, and that's in your timing. So there's no way I would tell someone, you have to do this, you must. I go, guess what's available? This is available. Try it. If you don't like it, I'll buy your book back.
Well, all right. Two things. First of all, if we want to dive into this, how do we get a hold of your stuff?
Oh, sure.
Let's
you
just
can
go
go
ahead
to
and do the commercial.
linkedpersonalities.com, and all the books are available on Amazon, of course, but they're also available at some of your local bookstores. So check them out there, request them from there. And you have the linked Quick Guide to Personalities is the general book, the linked for educators, maximizing classroom connections, and linked for parents, maximizing family connections. The next one to come out, the first of the year, is going to be linked for couples, and we're excited about that.
And if you're listening to the podcast, I have a theory about linked for couples. We've worked with a number of different marriage encounter projects, 5 love languages, and many others. They all work. They all work. If you spend some time at a marriage retreat with any teacher, unless they're absolutely off the rocker, anything that forces us to think of the other person, to me, is progress. So I'm actually more than confident to endorse everybody that we've worked with. They have different colors and flavors and techniques and catchphrases, but they all help, because we desperately need help getting out of ourselves.
They all help. And when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And it's kind of like when I talk to people about, weight loss or all of this. And I go, folks, when you are ready, everything will work. When you're ready. So when you're ready, it will work. Just wake up and say, Lord, just show me today what it is that you need me to see today. Not someone else's agenda, not someone else's next best book. What do you want me to see? What do you want me to learn about myself? How can I be better for you in the kingdom? How can I be better for my children, for my spouse, for my loved ones? You show me, and I'll take a look at it. And if I wake up every day doing that and something comes my direction, even if it's a critical word, John, and I used to be the one who goes, oh, no, you're not saying that about me. What are you thinking? I could so say things about you,
right.
That type of thing. And when I started embracing every day going, everything is God-breathed. He filters it all. So if someone comes to me with criticism, or someone comes to me with a word, and at first I'm like, wow, that hurt my heart. I go, wait, okay, God's in charge. God allowed that to come through. What do I need to know from that? What do I need to embrace from that? Maybe it's something about the person. Most of the time it's something about me. Maybe I was short with somebody. So everything will work. Everything works.
So now, you mentioned earlier, I'm not trying to change people, and yet at the same time, Well, what the Enneagram has done so interestingly, right, is it sort of identifies you're probably kind of this personality, and you might be a 1 through 9 in the Enneagram. And then you start to go, wow, that's me. I am that. I'm that. I'm that. They've lived their whole life with me. And then it shows you these are the things that you can be good at. These are the things where you can excel. And then they say, but this is the dark side of that personality. And if this personality moves into excesses, you might be prone to addictions. You might be prone to abusive behavior. You might be prone to a judgmental character. Whatever it is. Every yin has a yang. I mean, I'm not trying to be spiritual in the wrong, but there's that to this stuff too, right? So
absolutely,
it's not that I don't know, how would you, that's change too. Like, can I be aware of where I might be weak?
Okay, change, but it's self-choosing. Okay, if I come in and I go, John, you need to change. If you want life to be better, you must change. Okay, well, I'm pushing a wet noodle, and it gets messy, and then John says, oh, well, I tried, it didn't work, so it's on you, because you're the one telling me I need to change.
Right.
What I do is I do invitational, and I go, let me tell you about my tendencies. Every strength carried to extreme becomes a weakness. So my tendency is I can be very charismatic. I can control a crowd, but I can also be an excessive talker. As an excessive talker, I limit my listening. If I want to discover more about other people, if I want a relationship that's deeper than surface, I must choose to listen. That's my tendency. So what I do with that, now that I know that, what can I do with that? So with Linked, we actually tell them, this is what you do with that. When you're in this conversation, this is something you can choose. And with my coaching, I always tell people, they go, okay, so you're going to tell me what to do? And I say, no, I'm going to give you options, and then you're going to choose. Because ultimately, you're the one responsible. I'm not going to come home and make sure you do something, because you'll only do it as long as I'm there. So that's the same with Linked. It gives you options. Consider this, consider this, consider this. Now you have the information, right, John? So you have a business. You get the information out there. That was your job, to get that information out there. Your job is not to make sure that people follow through with the information, but you know that you have given them what they need. And so I look at that, and I've never had anyone come back and go, oh my goodness, this was a waste of time. This was, never. But I trust God in that, and I think that people will know the hearts. I think everyone who writes from their heart, they're writing what they believe is truth and what they believe that people need. And if the person and the timing and the product comes together when it's supposed to, everything works.
I've heard the phrase, and I think I agree with it, that the most important thing in life is relationships. And I would say relationship with God first, but the most important thing in life is relationships, but that is not what we spend our life training for, studying, buying self-help books for, going to seminars for the most part. But really, it's just this very cliche, but happy wife, happy life means if your relationship with your wife is good, you're probably going to make all right decisions in a lot of other ways. If you can have a family at home that's relationally functional, might even be relationally blessed. I mean, you're pretty well in good shape if you can have a functioning, good relationship in your work life. And these books can help us with that, right?
Let me tell you, what I love to see, and I share this when I'm speaking, I share it with my parents, and I'll say, Mom and Dad, let me tell you, some of the best phrase that you can ever say to your child is, I'm sorry. There's something I didn't understand, but now I'm understanding it better. May I share that with you? And I know that I said this, and I should never have said that. I was pushing your head down. I did not realize I should have been lifting up your face. And it's the same at a job. No matter who you are, CEO, president, no matter who you are, the most loyalty impressing phrase you could say to an employee is, I've not spent enough time getting to know more about your needs. I want to hear about you. I want to know what's going on in your life. Now, we can't all have one-on-ones, but golly dog, if you could spend 15 minutes with one of your employees and they've done an assessment, you're not wanting to find out everything about them, but you know emotionally where they are. And because it's been proven, John, the assessments work because they've been proven. And so with that, now I can sit down with an employee, I can sit down with a student, I can sit with a parent, I can sit with a client, and I can immediately speak into their heartbeat. And when they know that I've actually related to them and I'm going, we have 10 minutes, but this is something I'd like to say to you from my heart. It changes the dynamic. Loyalty levels go up, everything, sick days go down, all of this happens.
So think about how valuable this is. I mean, yeah, I have a company, but we all have these relationships in our life. And you're giving us really, really valuable advice, which is listen to the other person. And what's the other cliche? They don't care about how much you know until they know
that you care.
Mm-hmm. I mean, so if you haven't done that today with your kids, or your wife, or your family, or your coworkers, maybe you're listening to this podcast because it's time to go home and say, I haven't listened to you quite like I think you wanted me to. Let's try that again. That might be your coworker, it might be your boss, it might be your spouse, it might be your grandmother, who knows. You're giving us sort of a central nugget of God's truth, right?
And when you listen, don't do this. Don't listen, then tell them what to do with it. Don't fix them. Don't give them an example of, oh yeah, that happened in my life.
Me too, yeah.
Don't do, because that totally negates everything that you just started. Just listen. And then a beautiful way to come underneath that, as you're ending up, is said, how can I come alongside you in that? What would you like me to do to help you with that? And then in your mind, even if you have 25 other things that you're like, I could help them do this, boy, they really need help with that. Oh, don't do that. Let them tell you. Then with what they tell you, follow through.
The old phrase, you can pick your friends, but you can't pick your family. So the relationships in our life, most of them are not ones that we got to choose on an evaluatory basis. You did not choose your children if you're a parent. And if you have more than one child, I wonder if you've noticed that they have different personalities. Maybe that's just unique to my family, but I have a feeling that's fairly common. You probably didn't choose your in-laws. You probably didn't choose your brothers and sisters. Maybe you can choose a small group of buddies or girlfriends that you really click with, and awesome. Then you can kind of have your pick. But every single other circle of your life relationships, that's not going to be the case. So we're going to have to learn, right, how to adapt to different personality types.
We're going to have to learn, and we're going to have to make a choice with that. Will I take action on that, or am I just going to go, well, that's the way that they are, and I'm just going to let that be. I really don't care. But everyone does care, and you're correct, John. We do not choose our family members. We do not choose our children. Our children did not choose their parents.
Right.
But here's what the Word says. God did.
Beautiful. Right.
God did.
It's not an accident.
It is not an accident.
Maybe He's strengthening you.
He is strengthening you, or there is an element in you, if you'll let go of your agenda, that will touch the heart of the one who is hurting. If someone has a bitter root, John, it's because they have deep hurt. If someone has an area of their life that they can't let go, and they're just, they seem so controlling, it's because they have very low self-confidence. It is that strength carried to extreme becomes that weakness. But God puts you there for you to step back and say, Lord, this is how you've made me. What do I need to know about how you made him or her? Because every time we get together for the holidays, Thanksgiving, and I dread having so-and-so come, I would really love to embrace so-and-so coming. How do I do that? And God is faithful, and the Holy Spirit will show us. I need you to see this. I used to call them, well, I still do, Jesus kisses. When I was going through a difficult time understanding my husband, this is before I knew any of this. And I would say, but Lord, I know I saw something in him that was this way, and all I'm seeing is critical and bitter. And he said, I'm going to show you, and let me share what that was, because I think it's very pertinent to right now. Sam was watching television in the den, And I was up in the dining area, and on the television. Now, this, mind you, this is my husband who was very critical. He's just, he would say negative things about people and da-da-da. Well, on the television was one of those commercials for orphans in Africa. And they're saying, send your money, these children. And so you're seeing the faces of these children that have no one loving them. And I'm looking down, and I did. I just had prayed, Lord, show me. Please show me. And I looked down, and in the light that was in the room, it was low light, in the room, I saw a tear trickling down my husband's cheek. And he was silent. And I waited, and in a little bit, his posture changed, so he went on to something else, and I walked down and I said, Sam, I said, I saw a tear trickling down your face. I said, are you okay? And he looked up at me and he said, Linda, no one should go through life not being told that someone loves them. No one. That was a Jesus kiss for me, because that is who I married. And Jesus, the Holy Spirit, was giving me a promise. Do you see him? This is who he is. Everything else is his agenda. But this is who he is. And so that gave me hope, John, because every time he'd come with something else, I'd go, no, you showed me that tear, Lord. You show me. And now we're both in ministry together. I mean, that's a story in and of itself. But if we ask the Lord, show me that. If we understand more about the personalities, again, understanding not to change people, but to change my thinking, it makes a huge difference.
Well, thank you for doing what you do, Linda, and I can tell you're passionate about it, and it's a passion driven by sincerely helping people and building the kingdom of God. This is God kingdom building. If you're listening, these are, as she said, these are short books. These don't look so intimidating, and they're called Linked, and it's just Linked and Linked for parents and Linked for educators, and a new one coming out called Linked for couples. And the personality assessment is always a little bit fun and a little bit frustrating for me, because, like I said, I want to answer all of them, but you're always kind of curious. Was it Shakespeare, know thyself? I mean, there's something to that, right? Shakespeare had a clue about this.
Well, there is. Know thyself. Know how God has created you, and know that God doesn't do anything by accident. And with our assessment, what's sweet with it, it's circumstantial. So you're given a life situation, and you're given 4 choices.
Right.
Which one would you pick first?
Yeah.
And the one that says, well, I would do them all. Yeah, but you can only do one first. So if you do that, which one, right off the top of your head, how would you do this? And so
here's an example. Question number 1. You've been assigned a project to complete in 2 weeks. You A, get it done right away, even if you have to stay up late. B, procrastinate, but finish well at the last minute. C, have a challenging finishing as you want the project perfect. Have a challenge finishing, because you want it to be perfect, so you never get done. Or do you take your time and you finish at an easy pace? So that's an example of, if you're a mobilizer, socializer, organizer, or stabilizer, you got to kind of lean into one of those. And I would try to, I've often said on my tombstone will be the word both. John, you can choose A or B, and I want both. So 4 makes it even harder. But there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 26 is all. Only 26 questions.
26
and after that, you can sort of find a person's tendencies.
What you're going to find is they will be able to recognize their tendencies, and then and that's why the books became really important, because it was like, okay, wait a minute. You have the tendencies. We have in here, you might be a mobilizer if. You might be a stabilizer if. You love to live life the easy way. You tend to think before you speak. You appreciate respect for and this is for the educator, for your students. You're supportive, easygoing, work well under pressure.
This is the organizer you're talking about?
No, this is the stabilizer.
Oh, this is the stabilizer.
Because the stabilizer is easygoing. Here's your stabilizer, and you know them, John. Your stabilizer is when you say, hey, let's go out to eat. Where do you want to go? And what they say is, wherever you want to go, I'm fine.
Right.
I don't care.
Now, they don't mean it, because then you choose and they say, wait, I don't like, no, I'm kidding. They don't mind.
Most of the time, they really don't care.
Right.
And when they say everything is fine, they really mean it's fine.
Right.
But if you're a socializer and your socializer wife comes to you and says, how do I look? And you go, you look fine. Oh, to them, that's the worst thing in the world. What did you just say to me? What do you mean I'm fine? I don't want to be fine. I want to be wonderful.
Do you
I
like
want
the
to be
orange
this.
sweater with the green? Do you like these beads?
Sure,
Is this the right
sure.
earrings I'm wearing?
And what is it?
I'm not only going to tell you what restaurant I want to go to. There's a particular chair I'm expecting you to reserve, and
There
if I
it
don't
is.
get that chair,
I'm out of here.
I won't say anything. But
but the whole time I want to be in that chair.
well, if
Absolutely.
this sounds like fun, and you can see the value in taking an intentional step towards healthy relationships, I encourage you to look up Linda Goldfarb, linked online. Dive into this stuff. I suppose once people get into this, you can be reached somehow as well.
Oh,
right?
absolutely. Everything that's in there, they can find me. You Google Linda Goldfarb, I'm over everything. So.
Well, let's spend today making relationships important. Let's spend
Yes.
today listening to the other person, looking them in the eye, and not living in a cocoon no matter what personality we are. Even if we're the
Absolutely.
most introverted person on the planet, let's spend today knowing that even an introvert has important relationships.
Absolutely.
Thank you for being with us, Linda. It's
God
been
bless
a pleasure.
you. Thank you so much, John.
Have no shame. No, we are not afraid. No shame of the gospel of His name. It's the power of God by which we all are saved. We need not be afraid.
No Shame is a weekly podcast where John Groders discusses life at the intersection of faith and culture with all kinds of interesting and inspiring guests. Subscribe to the podcast today by going to johngroders.com, select the podcast tab, and hit subscribe. Listen whenever you have time, but don't miss any of these life-giving conversations.